Welcome to One More Hour, the podcast all about backyard ultras, timed races, and the ultra running mindset of going one more. If you're an ultra runner, a trail or ultra runner curious about the format, or just someone who loves to test your limits, you're in the right place. I'm Jaci Wilson, an ultra marathon and marathon run coach, trail runner, outdoor enthusiast, and backyard ultra expert. On this show, I'll bring you stories, strategies, and conversations with runners, race directors, experts, and more to help you go further, dig deeper, and keep going when everything in you says stop. Thank you so much for joining me for some yards. Let's get started with one more. Welcome back to the One More Hour podcast. Today's guest was a part of the deep field at Summit Backyard Ultra back in November. He finished in the top 3, running for 65 yards and 270 miles, which is just absolutely incredible. So in this episode, we are going to dig into what it takes to stay in the race when the clock keeps resetting, how training and mindset evolve at that level, and what really separates from simply surviving in the backyard to really competing deep into the field. So, hi Nick, congratulations and welcome to the show.
Yes, hello. Thanks for having me. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
So, I know you ran another backyard ultra in December and you won it, correct?
Correct, yeah.
How did you recover after summits, and did you know that you were doing this backyard ultra in December?
No, I didn't know until the Tuesday or Wednesday before the race for the second backyard in December. Recovery after summit, I took maybe about a week off. It helped that Thanksgiving was like 2 days after I stopped at summit. So it was like a lot of time with family, plenty of food, which is a big need.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'd usually just listen to my body, give it the time that it needs, and then start to add in like a walk.
Awesome. So summit was in November, breaking point was in December. How did you feel going into breaking point?
I felt pretty good. I'd already started to get back to running. I think even like between those two, like I had like PR'd my 5K, so I was like, I'm which is, I think there's still room there, so like it wasn't like a maximal effort, but I was feeling pretty good, and I'm starting to shift into like 100-mile training and just like trying to turn the legs over a little bit more. So I was feeling pretty good. I think, not 100%, but good enough to where like I could sign up and feel pretty confident going into it.
Awesome. Do you notice that your body recovers quicker after these big events? Possibly because the longer you get into ultra running, the more your body gets used to, okay, we're doing this thing, so we need to recover faster.
I think that the body really does learn how to adapt to it better. I don't know if part of that is also just like it's like something about the more you do it, you know how to finish it and not feel as bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't know if that's so much as like the training and the approach, but also, it's like knowing how to give your body the time to recover appropriately and like get back to it.
Yeah. I think just how the body recovers is fascinating, and it's fun to see how quickly some people bounce back from these big events. So before we dive into your backyard ultras, can you give us just a brief rundown of yourself, where you live, who you are, what you do for work?
Yeah. So my name is Nick Petterson. I live in the Austin area, in a town called Leander. It's like 30 miles north of Austin. I'm a chiropractor. That's what I do for work. And I love running.
How did you get into running?
I grew up playing soccer primarily, so that's a big part of soccer. And I played in college. Ran 1 year of track my senior year of high school. And then once I was done playing soccer, I kind of just transitioned into doing more distance running, starting with half marathons, Did my first full marathon 2 years after I graduated in college, and like in that process, started getting recommended videos for ultras. I think the 200-mile videos were starting to come out, and so just like the potential idea of doing that, like years down the road, was really interesting to me.
And how did you find the Backyard Ultra format?
It might have been through one of those YouTube videos. I'm not really sure. Um, but just like as getting into the world of ultra marathons and just like all these niche type of events, like seeing how far I could run and like the adventure side of ultras like is really what drew me into the sport. And so like I remember like I watched the like Free Chinmoy documentary as well, about like that 3,100-mile race in New York City, like in in preparing for like a road, like my first road marathon. So I was getting all of these like kind of insane races that just like really seemed out of touch from where I was at the time. But with that kind of as like a guiding light of where like I wanted to get to. Um, I think I kind of got off topic, but yeah, I think like somewhere along the way, like backyard ultras like came into the equation, and like it's like a really controlled environment and a good way to see like how far you can go, which was interesting to me.
Yeah, yeah, that's one of my favorite aspects of the backyard is how much you can experiment, and you're not putting a cap on. I'm going to run 100 miles or I'm going to run 200 miles. As long as there's someone else there with you that can go that far, you're not going to cap your potential and wonder, I don't know how far I could have gone. Like maybe I could have. You just don't know. So I think that's fascinating about the format. All right, so let's talk about your experience with backyard ultras. And I know you've done a couple 24-hour races. What did your first backyard ultra look like? How did it go for you? Did you were you met with obstacles right away, or did it go pretty smoothly?
I would say overall it went pretty smoothly, and I was happy with how it went. I had run a couple of 100 milers before that. Uh, Neither were sub 24, and so that was definitely in my goal setting for this first backyard. Whether or not I could make the 100 miles in 24 hours, and then to see how far I could go past that. Like everything beyond that was pretty vague. I was on a trend of like doubling my mileage PR every year leading up to that. It was like marathon, 50 mile, 100. And so, really as like a top tier goal is like try to get to 200 miles in that backyard, just because that was an opportunity to do that. But I didn't really have any like stepping stone goals between like get to 100 miles, get to 200 miles.
Yeah,
So
it's hard on the mind, right?
yeah, definitely. You hit one goal, and the other one it's like, well, I have to double this now, and there's not really any like carrots in between there that I had put, and I don't think any of the other like mental framework was set to sort of get me to that point. And I would say, as it happens in some of these smaller backyards, you get to 100 and the field shrinks almost entirely. Um, and so just not really having anybody else out there was a really difficult thing for me, I think, too.
Yeah. Yeah. So in your first backyard, you went 131-ish miles. What ultimately took you out of that race? Because you had the assist, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Just not being any like near any other runners was really difficult. The ultimate winner, Trevor, he has experience, or like even at the time, he had experience with multi-day events, and so I like he had the higher pedigree, and he looked really good. Like we would go out of the corral, and he was gone pretty much on the last couple of yards, and Um, my watch was dead. I didn't really know how fast I was going. I didn't have a concept of time. There were just so many factors that made it really easy to stop. And the discomfort was growing as it does.
So then you ran another last man standing race, Backyard Ultra, in 2022. What changed from one year to the next? What were some things that you were working on?
So after that first backyard, that helped my just like ultra running in general. Like blisters had been my problem up until then, and I felt like I was getting better at managing that. And pacing, definitely. Like I realized, I don't want to say how easy it is to run 100 miles in 24 hours, but like how manageable it really can be. Like you don't have to be going like incredibly fast. It's just being consistent. Um, and so I think like I had some really a lot better results in like 100K races and 100-mile races between that first and second backyard, which gave me more confidence going into the second backyard.
Where was your mindset at? Because you went, did you do 25 yards in your second backyard?
Yeah, I think that's either 24 or 25.
So going into that race, where was your mindset at? Because I'm sure after that first one, you did have some carrots to help you if you needed it to go as far as possible.
Definitely. With this second one, there was a cash prize. And so I would say that
That's
was more
awesome.
of yeah, there was more of a carrot there than like trying to really push myself like to a specific distance. I think going into that second backyard, I was also signed up for a couple of multi-day events like early in the following year. So this was kind of more of an attempt to make some money.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
There's a backyard in California. I'm trying to think of the name, but they do a cash prize for the last male and female. But they also do some fast laps. So if you're the first person to come through, I don't know how much cash you get, but um, it's fun to see just how races do some things a little bit different and kind of incentivize people to do different things.
The first backyard I did had cash laps.
That's
I
awesome.
really liked that.
Well, it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Like, okay, it's fun to be motivated, and maybe that can energize you again if you're kind of feeling a little low, but you don't want to do that too often either in the backyard approach if you're wanting to go as far as possible.
Right. Yeah. You almost have to wait. If they do one late in the game, then maybe
Yeah.
like fast lap.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So let's fast forward to 2025, November. You're in for Summit, the last dance. How are you feeling going into that race? What did your training look like? And what were you really focused on going into race day?
So I signed up for Summit because it's pretty local to me. It was like an hour drive, maybe a little less. Of course, the silver ticket is really enticing.
Yes.
Yeah. And I hadn't done any like multi-day events in 2025, so that was a great opportunity for me to go, 200 plus miles. I saw it as that. Also, my birthday was on that Wednesday, so if I could have made it another 24 hours, like that was kind of the major like top goal for me, was to make it to my birthday. Um, but yeah, like this was more or less my A race for the year, so I was putting a lot of emphasis on making sure I was going in healthy, making sure that I was like, going in as best as I could to like give myself a chance to get the silver ticket.
Do you think so? It seems like running a 100 miler before doing a backyard and hitting 100 miles is a confidence boost because you know you can run 100 miles. It's just, can I do it in under 24 hours and stick to the backyard format? And then the backyard format helps you with pacing in a 100 miler or whatever, maybe even doing a 24-hour race and mastering pacing and then going further than 100 miles. So there's advantages to each, and each format helps another format. Do you think that running Cocodona helped you with having the confidence of, I know I can run 250 plus miles. I just need to stick to the pacing and make sure everything else is in line to go as far as possible at the last dance?
Yeah, I definitely think having done Cocodona, and I did a 100-hour event as well before Cocodona, and I think the experience at both of those helps a ton. Just having to run a lot one day and then rolling into the next day and still having to do the same thing, and then rolling into the next day and you're still doing the same stuff. And it's a little bit different with the backyard in that there's not the terrain. There's different challenges, but you also have to be able to keep going every hour. You can't stop and sleep for 30 minutes or an hour. It's unless you're really, really fast.
What was your approach once? Because you guys were running into the third night. Were you taking any short naps in between?
Yeah, I would close my eyes between every yard as much as I could. We had a cot that I would lay on. So I would get down to the cot. I would kind of tell my crew like what sounded good food wise to me. And then I would close my eyes pretty much up until like 57th minute ish. And then I would get up and eat and then kind of get back to the corral. Um, and then there were times when I would try and give myself a little bit more time to sleep. I might do a lap a little bit faster if I started feeling tired or if I had more things to do.
Mm-hmm. I think timing is crucial, and it's also interesting just to figure out the what do I need to prioritize each time, and what can maybe wait one more yard, or what can I have my crew do for me so that I can maximize the sleep or the change of whatever it is. There's a lot that goes into that, and I think just experience and doing backyard after backyard really helps you figure that out. Were there any challenges that you had when it came down to timing and figuring out what you need to prioritize in between each yard?
I would say I really didn't have a ton of challenges timing wise. I was coming in the yards like pretty pretty well with enough time left. I think probably the longest I had was like mid 50s, like or low 50s. But mentally, it started to get harder in that third night because I was starting to slow down and my legs were getting stiffer to a point where I didn't think I would be able to get back in fast enough at any point to do some critical things. Because earlier in the event, if I wanted to change my socks, I would get in maybe in like the low to mid 40s to give myself enough time to change my socks, eat food, and lay down. And I guess that's kind of just accepting the sacrifice that I might not get to lay down.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's something I think for the next one that it would
What's
help me to accept those things.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. What's your setup like? You just mentioned a cot. Have you always had? I'm assuming you have a tent with the cot underneath the tent.
Yeah, so it's like a pop up tent. We had a table with kind of like snacks, food, and gear. I also have like most of my gears in backpacks, but I guess critical gear would be like on the table in between laps. And then we had a cooler with lots of food that we brought, food and drinks, and then just some like extra chairs. Like if I didn't want to lay down, I could sit in a chair, but then also chairs for the crew.
Have you taken a similar approach for each backyard that you've done?
The second one that I did was a lot like this one where we were more prepared. The first one, not as much. I had like one of those like 0G
Mm-hmm.
chairs that leans back. For like my first one, I had that chair, and then we had like a standard camping tent that I just like had all my clothes in, like in a duffel bag,
Yeah.
and then like everything else was just in our vehicle.
I think it's interesting to see all the different setups with how some are so minimal and then others are let's just bring everything possible in case I need it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think somewhere in the middle is probably best. It's like you can have way too much stuff, and then you're kind of sifting through a bunch of unnecessary items to find like what you really want or what you really need. I've definitely gone like the route of having too much, and it's
Yeah.
just yeah, at the end you have all these snacks and clothes, and so it's like I didn't touch any of
Yep.
that.
The amount of food that's left over, it's like, what was I thinking? But you, at the same time, you want to be prepared because sometimes one food may be the only thing that you want for a significant amount of time. So you don't want to run out of it either.
Yeah, that's a good point. And like you kind of never know what sounds good until like you're there.
Yeah.
Like sometimes like the staple doesn't sound good for whatever reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I think nutrition is one of the hardest aspects just from figuring out what you're going to want to eat after 20 hours or 2 days or whatever it is because I don't know, I feel like every race is so different with what I actually want to eat.
yeah, it can change like moment to moment and race to race.
Mm-hmm. What were some of your favorite nutrition items that you were eating?
The thing I could eat pretty much any lap was Noosa yogurt.
Okay.
The consistency is easy. If I don't want to chew it, like you don't really have to. It's
Yeah.
cold. So that was a big staple. And then I always had like a bottle of Hyperlight just prepared at camp for me. I think the race had Tailwind, which I've used in the past, so I would take that with me on the go. I made like 80 snickerdoodle cookies, so I ate a lot of those. Pizza. I tried to eat mostly real foods. I didn't bring any gels with me. Uh, so then, like the closest thing to like kind of traditional like race nutrition was the Tailwind.
Okay. Is
Um,
that your approach for, let's just say, thinking about Cocodona? Are you using more sports nutrition just because you have to carry all of that with you?
I used a pretty decent mix during Cocodona. I feel like was eating a lot of real foods then as well. I think like for this first section, they had these like bean wraps, and I took like 5 of them with me in my pack. Like I don't think that was the smart thing to do, but but it's what I did. I think using more like sports nutrition for Cocodona, especially with how fast it's getting, I think that like that would probably be the way to go. At
Yeah.
least like in between aid stations, and then when you get to an aid station, kind of like load up on unreal food just to give yourself like those like denser like extra calories.
Yeah. Yeah. So 5 burritos in the pack and then one in each hand.
Yeah, exactly. A couple in my pockets.
Did your nutrition vary at all during the nights?
I feel like it stayed pretty consistent. So like the yogurts were like my main go-to, like yogurts and applesauce. I guess maybe I ate more whole foods on the first night, and then probably as the nights progressed, I just like got less interested in eating. I'd say by the third night, it's like more liquids, kind of sodas, and then like whatever my crew could like get me to eat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who was crewing you for Summit?
My wife was out there for the first 2 days, and then I had extra crew members kind of trickle in because she had work on Monday. And so then I had a couple of friends from Houston come out, and then my parents came out as well.
Awesome. And what role do they play for you?
They're they're kind of there to tell me like what to do in a sense. I'll relay to them like what sounds good. But then I hand my bottles over to them. I may tell them like what I want for the next lap, and they fill those up. Um, but yeah, they're really keeping everything like on time, in time. If I never slept past when they would blow the whistles for the 3, 2, or 1 minute mark. Usually I was awake before then. I think I was just terrified of like oversleeping.
Yes.
I think I like leading up to the event, I had dreams that I was like in the race and like missed the start. So that was never going to happen, I don't think. But yeah, just keeping me in check, making sure that all the things that need to happen are happening. But also like, if when things spiral, they can kind of like get things back in check, um, and like kind of ground me in that way.
Were there any low points where they did have to kind of help you regroup and be like, okay, we're focusing on this one thing and you're getting back out there?
I wouldn't say like they needed to like regroup me, that I was like really like freaking out, but like my knee, or like kind of the area around my knee, started to become an issue like starting the second night. It just started to get a lot stiffer and lose range of motion. And so during the third day, it looked like it was getting more swollen. It was just like wasn't able to see my kneecap as well. I was pointing that out to them, like, hey, like this is an issue, right? Like it's getting more swollen. I'm like, well, we can do this, we can do this. They're kind of just ignoring my concerns, like by like providing solutions, which I think is like the right thing to do. But I was just like angry. I was like, no, this is a problem, right?
Do you think some of that comes from because you are a chiropractor and you understand the body and what may be going on?
Yeah, and I think some of that helps too, and it's like maybe that'll make me more stubborn whenever they're actually like giving me the reasonable option. It's like, well, I haven't fallen on it. There's not been like any like true like significant traumas. It's just like an overuse thing. Like it's doing what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
um, but it's like I also like that's not really what I want to hear. Like it is what I want to hear, but it's also not. It's like it. I feel like trying to push through when things get hard has been like what's difficult for me the most in these events, and I'm sure that is for a lot of people. Because like it's fun and it's easy until it's not.
Right.
And so yeah, it's like facing those physical and mental challenges is just like has really been hard for me to do, and I think this event was like a big turning point for me, because I would say even at Cocodona, like I started to get blisters about halfway through, and I let it affect me enough where I was like, well, I'm just gonna sleep as much as I want because I'm way ahead of cutoff. So like I'm just gonna kind of sleep and march through this. Um, and like with this, you don't have that option. You have to keep going every hour. So
Yeah, it's kind of like that action builds the momentum, which creates the confidence that you actually did this and that you continued to push through even when it wasn't going as you wanted it to.
and like it still comes in waves as far as like ups and downs, and I think being able to get through the lows like can give some confidence, but then it's so easily forgotten that like the lows are temporary. Like when you're in a low, it's hard to see through that. It's just like, no, it's easy to accept that it's just going to keep going south when that's not always the reality.
Yeah. So what what are some of the things that you tell yourself when you are in those low moments when you're out on the course? Because I feel like when you're back at camp, it can be easier when you're around your crew and they can help rationalize and provide logic for you. But when you are out there in a low, where's your mind going and what are you trying to do? Are you trying to stay present? Are you talking out loud to yourself? Are you listening to music?
I didn't listen to any music. I listened to a podcast for like 5 minutes of one loop. Um, and uh, I didn't have my phone with me the whole time, and so I think when I started carrying it, I was like, I don't need this weight.
Yeah.
The benefit I'm getting from this noise isn't helping me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've started to tell myself like this won't be forever, and that kind of comes like multidimensionally. It's like the pain that I'm experiencing isn't gonna last forever. Like this race isn't gonna last forever, and like ultimately, like our time to be able to do these things won't last forever. And so it's like trying to really focus in and like enjoy the experience because of all those things. And then kind of supplementally to that, I like to just tell myself, like, just do your best. And so it's like whatever that looks like, it's just keep moving forward. Like maybe you're not running as fast as you were before, but just do your best.
I think that reminder is powerful. And although it can be hard in the moment, it can get you through some really low points, especially since it almost brings you back to the present of what you're doing and why you're doing it. And I think since you're basically resetting every hour, I also think that helps that mindset of, okay, this is not going to be forever. This is not going to go on. This race is not going to go on forever. And I don't know, the whistles to me almost serve as a complete reset of like, okay, we're gonna go out again and we're gonna run another loop.
Yeah, the whistles are, it's a good way to just reset everything and just kind of like wipe the slate clean from where you were before.
What are some training runs that have really helped you with the backyard? Do you do a simulation of the backyard format for some of your long runs?
I very minorly I did leading up to this, so it wasn't like a 50K. It wasn't an ultra distance simulation. I think maybe like 3 loops worth, just to get the pacing down. But I feel that I've done enough ultra distance races that I don't need to spend like an entire day focused on like going 4 miles an hour for 10 hours. I think I would benefit more from like saving a long run like that to like gain more fitness, like specifically in like speed work or like some other aspect of training.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just because I have like enough experience from like previous backyards or like ultra races. I think like for somebody that hasn't done a backyard like that, doing a simulation like that could be beneficial to really practice like nutrition and like laying down like just kind of how you want your gear set up too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think from a pacing perspective, it's very helpful to understand that, okay, this is fairly easy and you're not busting your butt out there to get back within 50 minutes or whatever. It's very easy to walk, run, and still make it back with 10-15 minutes left. Um, and then on the other side of that, to do a simulation that allows you to get to the point of questioning your nutrition. I personally wouldn't want to be out there for 18 hours to try to figure it out before race day. Because
Yeah.
I just feel like with the effort level being so easy after 4-6 hours, personally, that's not getting me anywhere in terms of figuring out nutrition and when my stomach is going to go or what I need to switch up. But everyone is different, and some people like to do those long runs or the long run simulations. So I just like to ask what everyone's preference is.
Yeah, and I think like for my like first 100K, first 100 miler, I probably did like a long run that was closer to the race distance, and like ultimately like that's probably more for a confidence boost than like
Yeah.
truly necessary. I think really it's more of a hindrance in the long run, just because it's like you're doing like an entire race before your race, um, which I mean, I guess a lot of people do that, but I think like up to 50K, like 50K is kind of like the longest training run I'll do for most any distance at this point, and I'll just kind of change the effort level of that depending on like what I'm preparing for.
Well, and that's where the mental game of ultra running comes in, right? I like just talking to a lot of road runners or even thinking about before I got into ultras, trying to wrap your head around someone saying that they ran a 100-mile race and their longest run was 30 miles. Like, it doesn't quite make sense when you're training for a half marathon or for a marathon. Um, but the mindset behind that and just building that up through your training is crucial.
Yeah, there's so much unknown between 30 miles and 100 miles if you've never been to that place before.
Yeah. Do you do any daily mindset work, anything in your training to really help you with the mental side of the race?
I don't do any meditation or any like I guess really like thoughtful mind work. But I do try and make it a habit. If you're, if you have a task, you can either like do it or you can, put it off, and it's easy to like procrastinate. And I definitely like like used to be a procrastinator, but I'm very much trying to, do things in the moment. Like choose that mindset of like do the necessary things when you can. And I think just by like operating that way day to day, like does help in a race format too. And so it's like, I guess it's not like a built out like time each day that I sit down and like am like retrospective or anything, but I just like constantly like throughout my day, I'm just trying to like shape my mindset in that way.
Yeah. No, I think that's extremely helpful for listeners, and just reminding yourself like your brain knows what you do and don't do, and if you can carve that pathway to doing the thing that you don't want to do, I think there's science behind if you do things that you don't want to do versus doing things that you want to do. Doing the things that you didn't want to do actually builds these pathways faster, and they are stronger. So, I mean, that's all extremely helpful for running, but then also just for daily life. So I think that's like one of the best tips that I have heard is just doing the thing.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people say like be comfortable being uncomfortable, or like there's a saying kind of like that, and I
Yep.
think it sort of goes along those lines, where it's just like, yeah, get used to choosing the difficult thing, and it's like the more you can do that, like it makes the easy thing way easier, and it's like makes being comfortable like much more comfortable.
For sure. What is your social game like when you're out running for a few days? Are you chatting? Are you quiet? What are you doing?
I knew a lot of the people that were doing this race
Okay.
for Summit, so it was kind of chatty like from the jump, and yeah, so I was running with people. I like to run with kind of anybody and you chat with everybody, like kind of figure out who each person is, like why they're out there, and like it's not really like in the hopes of getting intel, but like that's just a byproduct of meeting people, and like
Right.
most people will talk about like what they've done in the past, whether they've done backyards, kind of like what their goals are, and it's like ultimately it's all like a like everybody's kind of against themselves at the end of the day. So it's like, whether I think they can go X far, like, doesn't matter.
Right.
So it's like, it might as well like make friends because we're all out there for like, as long as we can be out there.
Right. And you need them to keep going further too. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I would rather like build a community because we can all push each other further. Like, I feel like if we feel comfortable and like, I feel like in that mindset, at least that's the way I see it.
had you met Mark before this race?
I hadn't met him, but funny enough, like he did the last dot standing,
Yeah.
and the assist was the guy that the year I ran Cocodona, he was running it as well, and we spent the first 50K together, and then leapfrogged throughout the whole event, and like we're both from Wisconsin, so we connected on that, and so we're friends, and I paced him at a race, and so I was following along with last dot standing. And I had never heard of Mark Dowdle. And then I looked at the entrance list for Summit and I saw his name on there. I said, okay, this will be fun.
Yeah, he's awesome. So I'm in Minnesota. He's in Minnesota, like 4 hours away. But
Awesome.
I first started following him when he started doing the Calendar Club challenge for the entire year. and just watching him do
Wild.
that was incredible. And I will say he got pretty lucky with the winter that we had because it was a very mild winter, but at the same time to run a marathon for what 5-6 days in a row every single month, there's a huge mental game right there.
Definitely. Yeah, it's like when you come from that, yeah, you hold yourself accountable. Like that's choosing the uncomfortable thing for a long time. So it's
Yeah. Was there anything out that you learned from any of the other runners out there that really helped your, I don't know, your mindset or your just your race itself, or something that you're going to take into another race with you?
I spent a lot of time with Stephanie Rosebaugh. We both like to have fun while we're running. She was like, you know, very much like this has to be fun. Like if it's not fun, then like why am I doing it? I feel like I also like I really enjoy running and I like to have fun running. So it was fun getting a lot of miles in with her. But really, like, yeah, ultimately their mindsets like between her and Mark, Megan, everyone that was in for the last like couple of days is just the perseverance and seeing some people like keep getting to the start line even when they have like a minute left. I was never in that situation, so like it's so easy in hindsight to say, "Oh, I wish I hadn't stopped when I did." But I know how I was feeling and like why I made the decision I made. But I wish that I stopped in between yards, and I really wish that I had just said, "You know what? I'm going. I'm going to try again. I need to at least try."
And you don't have to share if you don't want to. Was it your knee that was the determining factor to stop?
It was a combination of, I mean, it was specifically that, and then I was also just getting more fatigued and kind of loopy during in between laps. I was having this like really intense like personal like debate and struggle on on the road section. So it was the nighttime loop was like half trail and then half road, and it was a 2 mile loop, so you did it twice. And I think just getting onto the road, it was just so long, and I was like my knee was making it so I couldn't run as comfortably or as fast as like as I felt like I wanted to. That probably wasn't actually true. But then I was just like, well, I could just lay down right here and time out. But it's like, but I know that I can go fast enough to make it. So like, why am I gonna do that? Like, I have to like, I'm holding myself accountable. I have to like, if I feel like I can make it to the finish, like I need to do that. And so it was just like this intense desire to lay down on the sidewalk, but also like knowing that I can push through and make it. And that just got to be like so exhausting. Um, that I was just like, I don't know how much longer I can do this or that I want to do this.
Yeah.
And I think during the third day, like, because I wanted to try and win, like questioning like my desires, like if I win this, like I'd get to go to bigs, but like, do I want to go to bigs? Like what? Like I'm not like this isn't fun in the moment. So like going there and going even further, like would that be fun? Like does that even sound fun? And like I kind of had to like reel it back. It's like no, like I've been looking forward to this event for so long. Like this does mean a lot to me. But it makes you question those things, and it's like, and if you don't really have that concrete, like it can start to get hairy. And like even if it is concrete, like it's gonna get confusing, and like your brain's gonna want to fight it.
Yeah. And like your brain doesn't make sense when you're out there. Like I've had those thoughts too of like I could just sit down, or in one of my races we heard a pack of coyotes howling, and it's like, well, maybe they'll come and attack me so then I can be done. Like it doesn't, outside of running it makes no sense, but when you're in that moment it is such a strong debate internally between one voice and the other, and it can just be debilitating in that moment.
Yeah, it's it gets exhausting. It's just like trying to find almost any way out of it. And I think that that's where like a crew can really be instrumental in like bringing you back. Um, and yeah, like in that last like right before I dropped out, because it's like I also didn't want to let them down. You know, they'd been out there for 65 hours, and I asked them. I said like would you guys be disappointed if I stopped? And I said, no, of course not. You know, it's like nobody's gonna say like yes, you can't, you can't stop. But then pretty much like once all of them said that, they were like no, like it's fine. Like we're proud of you for like whatever you do. Like that's almost like a green light. It's like oh okay, like
Yep.
I can stop then.
Yep.
So it's like kind of I shouldn't have asked them that question, but also I think like there should have been a little bit more conversation around that moment. And like I'm not putting any blame on them, of course. Like it's my decision, but I think having that experience in that moment now moving forwards, like I know it's like don't ask them that question. I know from the
Yeah.
jump that they're there for me.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
we've had a couple runners in other races tell people like, if I ask you or if I tell you I'm done, tell me I'm not. Like, keep dragging me through because like that's my intention in a rational state versus a tired, fatigued, hurting state.
yeah. I think having that like tough love or like tougher love in a crew member where it's just like no, you said like you can't stop in the in between. Like at least just get out there. Like if you turn around right away, whatever.
Yeah.
But you have to go out on the course, and like moving forward, that like that has. I told myself that's what would happen this last time. Unfortunately, it didn't. But yeah, it's like you maybe need to have people sign a waiver.
I like that idea.
Yeah, the crew waiver.
For someone who has not ran a backyard ultra, how do you describe the community?
I think everyone's there to try their best, and like everyone really wants to find out what their limits are. Like ultimately, that's what it is, and it's really welcoming. I would say like 99% of people like they're competitive, but it doesn't feel competitive like between competitors.
Yeah.
I would say it's like a very like fun loving, like people out there are like there to test their limits and like truly like I feel like truly love running. Um,
I mean, if there's no cash laps, there's no
yeah,
incentive to run faster, and I think that's one of the beauties of the backyard is you are not racing to see who can run each yard faster because you have the same 60 minutes and like yes, some people are going to want to run faster so they have more time at camp, but ultimately like it's not a race and you're working together to go further.
yeah. As long as you're in the race, you're tied for first.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's what I always say. Doesn't matter. We're all tied for first.
So, what was the feeling when you were done, and what has this race taught you about yourself?
I would say it was simultaneously relieving, but there was even in the moment there was a sense of kind of like disappointment or regret. It's hard not to, but it was also so nice to be able to lay there for longer than like 10 minutes. So like this feels really nice. So I was like I can't be mad at myself. I got a really big PR in the format, and like I know how much like Mark is putting into the format. And so like of course like I'm super excited for him and for Stephanie. Like both of them were incredible athletes, and so it's like I, I'm it was a weird mix of emotions and fatigue. Um, and you said, has the race?
what did it teach? What did the race teach you about yourself?
I think it taught me that I'm continuing to improve my mental game and my ability to persevere through difficulties, but also that you know, I'm not as like tough as I want to be, and I'm a human, and that ultimately, it's like it's easy to give in to like discomfort, and because ultimately, I wouldn't even categorize it as like pain. Um, yeah, there's I'm really proud of like how far I've come, but I know like in the scheme of ultra marathoning and running, like when it gets difficult, like I can still improve myself, and I think that can be translated to like real life as well. And it's I wouldn't say like when things get hard I give up, but it's just trying to improve on those things.
Yeah, yeah. It kind of the backyard breaks you down, and it kind of highlights things in running, but then also in real life. That's like, okay, yeah, this is something that I can work on, and something that I can improve for my running, but then also for daily life, which I think is incredible.
Yeah, definitely. They mirror each other a lot, and yeah, it's like who you are outside of running doesn't change like once you're in running, and at least not at its core. Maybe you can hide it, but yeah, when you're out there for that long, like those things will come out.
One other question I was going to ask you. How did you sleep the night after?
I think I slept really well.
Okay.
Oh well, I guess like right when I finished that.
Well, I guess yeah. Did you sleep right when you were done?
Yeah, yeah. My parents had like a really big tent that they brought with a air mattress, and it was like 1 a.m. and I had my own vehicle, so I wasn't able to I wasn't ready to drive it.
Yeah, yeah.
So we slept. It was like 1 or 2 a.m. or something, and then I woke up maybe at like 5 or 6. It was pretty broken sleep, I think. Usually for the first few days after like a multi-day event, it's not the best sleep. Um, and like I feel like I tend to sleep like really warm. It's kind of like the post ultra like night sweats
Yeah, yeah. Your body's
kind of
trying to
thing.
figure out how to regulate temperature and everything.
Yeah, and I feel like metabolism is just like on overdrive.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and like right afterwards, I don't think my hips have ever been like achier. Just laying there, just is intensely like uncomfortable.
Yeah, can't find a comfortable position because everything aches.
Yeah, and like a lot more things that I hadn't noticed during the event.
Yeah,
And it's crazy. It's like just those extra like 20, 30 minutes of not moving.
it
It
sets
just
in
it all
quickly.
sets in.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like wow, I didn't realize I was gonna be this sore.
yeah. Well, and I think I asked the question because it's a conversation that I've had a lot more lately, but also frequently. It's something that people don't really talk about and something you don't really expect. And it's almost something that I forgot from one year to the next, but you're you end your backyard or your whatever race you're doing, and I sat in a chair by this fireplace for 10 minutes, and I thought I would get up to go out and watch the next or the five people or whoever was left come back through for their next yard, and I was not getting out of that chair because my legs ache so bad. But it's so it's so fascinating how quickly that can set in, without really realizing it when you were still running and moving.
Yeah, things felt sore and achy, but they felt like 100 times more sore and achy after
Yeah.
like less than an hour.
Well, congratulations on just this huge performance. And then a few weeks later, you went out for Breaking Point, which is just absolutely incredible to see that quick turnaround. Um, was there anything that stood out from that December backyard ultra?
There were, I think there was only one or two other people in that had done a backyard
Okay.
previously, and maybe like a handful that had done like 100 milers. Um, and so there were a lot of like people new to the backyard. And so like the contrast between Summit and the Breaking Point was very different. You know, there were some people that would go out like very fast, but I would say generally like they were just like really excited for the format. There was a lot of like eagerness to it. Um, and like really like a good understanding of the pacing for the most part though. I think a lot of people like were like walking and jogging and like were walking any part that was uphill. Like they had a, even though like most people didn't have any like experience with it, they've like either done the research or just kind of followed suit of people who had. And it was just like a really contrasting group of people as well. I think like the majority of the folks at the Breaking Point like are more like high rocks athletes, but like dip into the ultra world as well. So it was fun to like talk with them about those events and just like get a different perspective into like endurance events and like strength competitions.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it's always fun to just talk to people and learn the different backgrounds and how they came to ultra running or the backyard format or whatever it is. I think that's just so fun, and it can get you really far into the race too without even really realizing it.
yeah, we had like there was one guy who was like just off of like OTQ times in marathons, so like I really thought he was gonna go like all the way. He was like just walking with us. It seemed like a cakewalk for him. It was also interesting because it was downtown Austin. There's like a town lake there, and it's like pretty much right downtown, and so there's a lot of activity, which was fun, but it also made it very interesting.
Hmm.
And there
Yeah,
were
just seeing other people being active too on the same path.
yeah, and like people that were out just like shopping. The nighttime was an interesting mix of like people who like just kind of sleep there, and also animals. and
Yeah.
then and in the daytime it gets alive with like running clubs and people cycling and shopping. And it was just like it was interesting seeing like a day in the life of a city.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
bet.
it was pretty fun.
So from a perspective of the course and the environment and the people running, those were two very different backyards.
Absolutely, yeah. The environment was totally different. The terrain was very tame. It was like a pretty flat, like gravel and sidewalk mix, which is kind of perfect for a backyard. And we had to go up like a staircase every loop. But other than that, it was kind of perfect. But yeah, and then also just a first time backyard event, like with mostly people who hadn't done a backyard, and then kind of on like almost the opposite end of the spectrum, like a silver ticket event. Yeah, they're like, but at its core, it's like the same thing. I would say Breaking Point was really well done. They had lots of volunteers. They were really enthusiastic about the event
Mm-hmm.
and putting it on, and they were like getting lots of different food options for us as competitors. So it was a
That
lot
is
of fun.
awesome.
So like I hope they do that event again because it is unique in the world of like backyards. It's like you said earlier, like each one kind of has its own like quirk and like
Mm-hmm.
different thing about it.
Yeah.
It was definitely unique, but still like at its core, like backyard ultra.
Yeah, that is great to see. Um, do you have any backyards on the schedule for 2026?
I don't, but would really like to do Ode to Laz or Tartarus. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's like kind of the two late year silver ticket events. Um, I have a few 100-mile races like this winter, spring, so the other silver tickets really won't work. Um, yeah, I really would like to try one more for this like team qualifying. Um, just seeing like what I was able to do at Summit, and then also like comparing that to, I guess there's only been one other silver ticket race, but also just where the at-large list is, like I'm just like right in that bubble zone. So I'd like to give it one more go.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, just from what I've seen and just from talking with you, it seems like you'll have a very strong 2026, and it'll be fun to see with whichever race you decide on, doing a later season race, how this rest of the beginning of the year will set you up for success with what you've already done and accomplished in November. So it'll be fun to see you just kind of build on all of that.
Yeah, thank you.
So the last two questions that I've been asking all of our backyard runners are, number one, what advice do you have for runners who are hesitant to try a backyard ultra?
I would ask them to ask themselves like what is holding them back from doing it, like kind of address the hesitancy. Um, and then I would also just tell them to do it because really like maybe second to like a fixed time event, it's like the like least intimidating format for an ultra. It's, I mean, I guess you're kind of limited by like if you can make it the next loop, but it's, I would say it's like pretty manageable. And I guess depending on what their pacing is already, like it's a great way to learn about like how to nutrition, like utilize your nutrition, how to pace yourself. It's just a great place to like learn your weaknesses, learn your strengths, and like practice gear because it is such a controlled environment. Um, yeah, again, like second to timed events, it's like the most controlled option.
Yeah, it is. I agree. And my second question is, if you could only fuel with one source for the duration of a backyard ultra, and again, this can be realistic or funny or whatever, what would
Okay.
you fuel with?
I guess realistically, I'd probably say Noosa yogurt, because that's like my go-to right now already. I don't know. I'm okay with that answer. I love that
Okay,
stuff.
yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, Noosa yogurt.
Do you have a flavored option or non-flavored or vanilla?
Uh, Vanilla bean.
Okay.
They have a vanilla bean one that's like it tastes like. I mean, it's pretty much like ice cream.
Yeah. No, I like their vanilla bean. I agree with that flavor. All right,
It's
everyone
good.
fuel with it.
And I guess second option would be like key lime.
Oh, I haven't tried that one yet.
Key lime's good. They're all good. You can't really go wrong.
Yeah, yeah. Well, awesome. If you are listening to this episode and you're wondering whether a backyard ultra or a timed event is for you, I hope this conversation really helps reframe the backyard ultra. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to know everything. You don't need to know how far you can go. You just need to really be willing to take it 1 yard at a time and keep showing up hour after hour, and really just see what happens when you choose to put yourself first and start again and again and again. Nick, thank you so much for sharing your experience and really just pulling back the curtain of what it takes to go 270 plus miles in the backyard. I think it's absolutely incredible. Can you tell our listeners where they can find you on social media?
Yeah, my Instagram is nickp_runs. I'm trying to make it a point to post on there more and share stories. Like I'm not the best at doing that, but every year I try and post more on there and interact with people. So yeah, follow me there, and then also on Strava, you can find me at Nick Petterson. It's the picture with the sunflower.
Awesome. I will make sure to put both of those in the show notes. But thank you again, Nick. This was just an absolute blast. And until next time, everyone strive to go 1 more hour, 1 more mile, or even just 1 more step.
Thanks so much for having me on. This was fun.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to 1 More Hour. If you enjoyed this episode, hit follow so you don't miss the next yard. And share it with a runner who loves pushing their limits. I'd love to hear your own stories of going 1 more. Connect with me on Instagram at the 1 More Hour Podcast. And if you could leave a quick review, it'll help more runners find the show and keep going when they want to stop. Until next time, just go 1 more hour.